There are shows with psychics,
And there are shows with doctors.
but there's no show like The Psychic and the Doc.
Your practical paranormal power unleashed.
This show synthesizes the talents of world-class medium Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, psychic explorer,
And street smart spiritualist, behavioral psychologist, Dr. Pat Baccili. All subjects are on the table and no topic is taboo. Inspiration, insight.
action, and fun as Mark Anthony connects callers with loved ones in spirit.
In tandem with Dr. Pat's fresh, no-nonsense, street smart, intuitive insights. And she is hilarious.
Extraordinary problems
Require extraordinary solutions, which may come from this side
or the other side. This is The Psychic.
and the doc. And it starts now. Welcome everyone to The Psychic and the Doc. I'm Mark Anthony, JD Psychic Explorer, and I'm here with my incredible co-host and the founder of Transformation Network and the host of the Dr. Pat Show for the last 2 decades, the one and only Dr. Pat Baccili. And we have a really great show tonight. Oh boy, we have a fan favorite, a great friend of the show, Jana Short, returning. And let me just give a brief introduction for Jana, because here's the thing. If I just told you everything Jana does, it would take the entire hour and then we wouldn't get a chance to talk to her. Jana Short is a global influencer. She's the host of Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. She's an internationally recognized entrepreneur and best-selling author. Jana is the editor of Best Holistic Life magazine, who has been recognized as the top magazine publisher and publicist of the year by the International Association of Top Professionals, and she's been designated one of the top 15 coaches in Los Angeles by Influence Digest Los Angeles. She's graced the cover of many magazines, and today she is here to share insights about her new best-selling book, The Yet Factor. Welcome back to the show, Jana Short.
I'm so glad. I already felt like it took an hour.
I'm like, wow. So, but it's important, what Mark did is so beautiful, Jana, because I think it's important. We live in this digital age now, and we have to take a moment and step back and really honor the journey of other people. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional on this right now. It's so important to do this, especially when we reflect on how we got here. And I'm so glad, Mark, you did that. And we could go on, and we are going to go on throughout the show talking about you. It's so wonderful to see the work you're doing in the world from my perspective for 2 reasons. One, you're shining a light on the fact that people can do what you're doing. If it's in their heart, they can have a dream, they could take it out, they could write a book, they could do a show, right? It doesn't matter what is in your heart, they can do it. Sometimes, though, we hit a couple of potholes. Sometimes they're New York City potholes. And you got to get a tow truck to get out of them. But I'm sure we're going to cover all and any of that. And thank you for being of service in the world. Thank you so much for being of service.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Dr. Pat.
Yeah.
Hey, Jana, I got a question. We're all writers here. We've all written articles. Yeah, Dr. Pat, you're a writer. I know you're working on a book. Okay. But
Working on it.
The funny thing is, when it comes to a book or an article, there's a trigger that gives you an idea. And what I love about the Yet Factor is that it's more than a self-help book. It's a game changer. What was the motivating factor? What was the trigger, if you will, that gave you the inspiration to write this amazing book?
My grandkids,
Wow.
they're like our future, right? And when I hear them saying things like, I can't do this, and I can't make that happen, I can't achieve this, it's not possible, it makes me mad. Like very mad. So what I prefer to do is help them with that shift. Well, you just haven't done it yet. And they're the ones that say, ask Jana about her Yet Factor. So they kind of named the book for me.
Wow. And for the audience who's not yet familiar with the book, the yet factor and what you said with your grandchildren, I can't do this yet. Can you give us kind of a brief summary of the power of that statement?
So yeah, I absolutely can. We have these beautiful loops that pop up in our brains, right? And something has to trigger them. Anger triggers them. Fear triggers them. It's all kinds of situations trigger different loops. And the I can't loop triggers a block, a door that keeps you from achieving what you want. But if you say the word yet, just change one syllable in that sentence, what your brain actually hears is, wait, what did she say yet? That means there's a possibility. That means we should be preparing. What does that mean for us? It's going to happen, just not today. And so your brain starts creating a new neural pathway with a possibility, no closed doors, right? It might only be opened a little teeny bit, but it isn't closed. And the more you say this, the more it reinforces that loop pattern in the brain, that new neural pathway to the possibility of something happening. So I, by the way, thought I would never write a book by myself. I'm kind of a big chicken. And first of all, my hats go off to anyone who's put a book out by themselves. I always went and got people to collaborate with me because you know what? Then it's not all on me if it goes bad. If it goes good, it's also not all on me, but I don't have it all on my shoulders. It was very brave of me. And I would say all the time, I haven't written my own book yet. And there it is.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of people get scared of things. It's like I remember learning to swim. I was 18 months old. And what it was, my family, we moved from New Jersey to Florida, and there was water everywhere, and inevitably I was always disappearing, and they'd find me in a puddle or in a ditch. I can't believe I was never eaten by an alligator yet. No, I'm kidding. But the thing is, I remember when my parents took me to swimming lessons, and I can see how a child would say, I can't swim yet. And I remember I love the water, but there was this fear of the deep end of the pool. And I think that's extremely important to let people know we're all scared. We're all afraid, reluctant to do things. Like Dr. Pat, you say, well, I haven't written a book yet.
Yet. Yeah. And I have to correct myself on this. Thank you to Jessica. So I went on this rant for I don't know how many years about, oh, I haven't published. And Jessica came across my dissertation one day in a big fat black binder with gold writing on it. And she pulls it out and she said, this was in my basement when we were forming the network, right? She pulls it, she said, I thought you said you didn't write a book. I said, no, I have not written. I have not written a book. She said, what is this thing? It's like 2.5 inches thick. It's got your name on it only. I said, but I don't think they consider that a book. And Jessica looks at me. You got to love Jessica. She looked at me and she said, it says it's published. There is something that you say in the book. There are many things you say. There are two things I picked up. One is all about the beliefs, but you weave in confidence in this in such a beautiful way. And a lot of books that are written do not weave that in, but it is a critical factor. And whether you call it confidence, self-work, and I want to ask you this question, but I want to ask it from your perspective. When did you get touched by the confidence angel to help you become Jana Short in the world?
So that angel has to touch me daily because there
Yeah.
are days, right? There are days that you're like, what am I doing? Like, and you get scared again. For instance, I have a big thing I'm planning in August, and I have quit 50 times. I have called the team and said, we're not doing it. I quit, we're out. And yet I am finding the courage to move forward. So I will tell you, one day you have super amount of confidence and someone puts a little ding in your armor and you got to go back and do the work. And then you get it all built up again and there comes that little ding. The thing is, you control your armor. You control what brings you down and what brings you up. And so I've just chose to switch those things around and do some work on myself every day. It is an everyday thing. We never achieve perfection. Every time I work on one thing, it feels like 5 more doors open. But I feel like it's fun. It's like whack-a-mole. I think I talk about in the book, like you could play whack-a-mole with those words. And every time one of those negative ones pop up, just see how fast you can hit it down. and pull up something more positive.
Oh my God. First of all, let's just tell people how they get the book. I mean, it's available. They can go to Amazon and get the book, or tell people how they get the book, Jana. But also, let's take a moment. I don't want to forget that we want to just make sure people look at the magazine too. What is the best way for people to connect with those things?
So the magazine they can go and get on Amazon, or we have a digital that you can get off the website. And next year we are going to be back in Barnes and Noble. So I'm super excited about that starting in January. So the magazine can be purchased everywhere. And for the book, it's the same. You can get it on Barnes and Noble or Amazon. And I think that it should be a gift to yourself, because this book is written for you, not for you to help someone else, because at the end of the day, the only people we can really fix is ourselves. So it's really a book for you to do something for yourself, to become that person that you've always envisioned yourself being.
Yeah. I want to take a very, very short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation about, think about this word, think about this, the yet factor. Can you think about when you first heard somebody even reference that? I know for me, it was Captain Marvel and Brie Larson in the first Captain Marvel movie. But let's take a short break. When we come back, more about that. We are taking your calls, all of you out there. Don't worry, 1-800-930-2819. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back, everyone.
To the Psychic in the Doc. I'm Mark Anthony, JD Psychic Explorer. I'm here with my co-host, the one and only Dr. Pat Baccili, and we have a very special guest and great friend of the show, Jana Short, who just released The Yet Factor, which I understand is climbing the bestseller charts.
Yeah.
And Jana is also the editor-in-chief of Best Holistic Life magazine. And Jana, I know that people can subscribe to Best Holistic Life magazine by going to bestholisticlife.com. And if you could, tell us again how people can buy your book, The Yet Factor.
You can go to Amazon and just put in Best Holistic, or I'm sorry, The Yet Factor, Jana Short, and it'll pop up. Or you can do the same thing at Barnes and Noble.
All right.
Fantastic.
Now, I want to read the tagline. Okay, I'm probably not called. I'm in media, so everything's a tagline to me. I just want to read the subtitle of the book because I want people to get this. Success Decoded, Strategies to Transform Your Mindset, Unlock Success, and Craft Your Winning Route or Route. See, I love that because along the way, Jana, I know there were people that became the shoulders that you stood on to get you here. You talk about your family in the book. You talk about your children. You talk about your partner, the rock. And I wanted to ask you this question that really leads into opening up the phone lines as well. And it is the thing that you put somewhere like in the middle of the book, I think it is, claiming your destiny. That was the surprise chapter for me. I didn't expect it, and it's so powerful. Can you talk about that and how that relates to success, if you don't mind?
I do. I think that a lot of times we're just success chasers. We never get there because we keep ourselves held apart. It's scary to be successful. It's scary when all your dreams start to come true. But for me, claiming your destiny or claiming your success is really opening the doors to receiving. Like people are like, it's shut off. And I can see them at that success level, but they are shut off to receiving it. So I really want you to claim your destiny, like whatever it is, open the doors fully and just be in receiving mode. Like turning receiving mode on is very hard for people.
Oh, no kidding. I have to put on a 20-minute thing on my brain tap. It's called Ask, Receive, and something. I got to put that on because I think so often we forget. I mean, Mark, look, what you do for a living, you are in support of so many people. I mean, right, Jana? I mean, Mark is like out there on the stage. He's in traveling the country, going into places most people don't go into. And I wanted to ask you from your perspective, Mark, about the book. There are many things you could have touched upon or pulled up for yourself. What did you resonate with?
Oh, there were so many things in the yet factor. And I was honored to write the foreword for the book. Thank you, Jana. It was such a pleasure. And people ask me to endorse books all the time, and yours was awesome. Yours just stood out. What I found is there were so many different facets to it, but it was like fear. People, all of us, the three of us are public figures. We all go out on stage, we go on media, and people always say, "Oh, you look so calm and cool." And it's like, do you have any idea what's going on in my abdomen, my stomach, my nervous system? Because everybody has this. And the yet factor says that's okay. That's part of it. It's like, I can't go out on stage yet. There's times, I remember when I was practicing law, when I was a young lawyer, I was terrified. I was going into court. And then I used to think that, well, maybe if I just got up and ran out of the courtroom, what would happen? Well, the judge would send the bailiffs to go tackle me in the hall and drag me back in, kicking and screaming. And I figured the humiliation of that was going to be worse than anything I had to do. And the yet factor does that. It lets you know it's okay to be you. It's okay not to be perfect, but it's also okay to have your dreams. And just because you haven't done something yet doesn't mean that you're not on the course to do that. Because so many times people say, well, I can never do this. I will never do that. I'm afraid of this. And with adding that word yet, it's like, as a writer, a lot of times I'll start a sentence with however, but you can also use the word yet. And yet it's a similar meaning, yet it has a different connotation.
Yeah.
So that's one of the many things that I
Yeah.
got, that I was inspired by
Yeah.
reading the Yet Factor.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I was reading it and I'm in the middle of a little bit of a thing with one of my trademarks. I mean, I created this word called unstuckable. I've had the domain for 21 years and I've got this company trying to claim it, right? And so I'm in the middle of all of this dialogue about it with attorneys, and they call them specimens. What a ridiculous name, Mark. That's like a legal name. So I'm in the middle of it and I could feel my blood pressure go up. And then I had to pinch myself, but I read a couple things in your book and I would love for you to talk about them. Success detours. That thing, you had me at the word detour, but I want to talk about it because I had to pinch myself after I got through the book and I said, you know what? We haven't nailed this down yet, Pat. Everything is in your favor, but there was something else that happened to me and I would love for you to comment on it. This is not the worst thing that could happen to me. If in the world we're living in, somehow God, the universe, whatever you believes in, thinks that somebody else is meant to do something that you think you're so bent on doing, it's not death. And there's a perspective that I get from what I read about this. But I also covered that with the chapter on powerful conversations because I found myself talking defeat and OMG, I had to take an antacid. So tell us from your perspective, what are some of the top 3 things you want people to know today? So 1, they could recognize what I just went through. We all go through it. But 2, it's not the agony of defeat, is it?
Dr. Pat, I love that you're bringing this up because I almost named that section failure to launch. And I realized that
Love that.
instead of launching into what we're supposed to do, we take success detours. We are looking to create perfection before we're ready to put it out there, right? And there's no perfection. So this could go on forever and ever. So I would tell people, I'm a jumper. I've never been a toe dipper. I always jump in, which means sometimes I go under for a while. But I'm also a survivor, so I just keep kicking until I'm back at the surface, right? I redirect. I will tell you, everything has a season. I really believe this. And if something's holding you back, other than yourself, something is holding you back, it's not available to you yet. I think there's a reason the universe holds us back. They don't want us to cross that path until there's something there that we need to keep moving forward or to make it better. And so for me, when I miss an opening for something, I now look, that wasn't my time yet. It's coming. And I know that when I actually cross this road, there's going to be something amazing there. And so the universe held me back. And I now accept those holdbacks as not failures, as that season for me to be there isn't ready. And if I got there now, I would miss it and miss the whole leaves changing. I'd step into the wrong season. So I want people to understand that if you're not going at the pace your head says you should be going at, look at it in a different way. Maybe the universe is holding you back a little for a reason. You're not ready to be there. You don't have a specific tool you need. But I also want you to stop waiting to launch what you're going to do. Life is short. It is so short. And you're going to be sitting in the waiting room of life, just getting it all planned out for perfection. And the next thing you know, you don't have any more time. So I encourage you to be a little bit more of a jumper. It's not that scary going under for a while. It teaches you better swimming skills for sure. But I would say start launching, stop looking at the sparkly thing over here. Ooh, I should have that. And then you're off to a whole new thing to add to whatever it is you're ready to do in the world. And know that if you are held back, sometimes that's just a message from the universe. There's something waiting and it's not your time to cross here yet. And so I'm very patiently waiting for lots of things to happen.
You and me both. I think Mark, may I say this about you? Mark is a launcher. I look at Mark, and I don't think I've ever said this on air to him. He's like shooting something out of a rock. It's like a rocket. I'm talking to him one day. I think I'm going to write a book. And the next day, oh, my book, Amazon best. I'm like, when did you do that? The show is a perfect example. Mark's like, oh, boy, we had a really good time. Why don't we do a show? See, I love that. And I don't think that's genetic. I mean, maybe, but I don't think it's genetic. But Mark, when you say you're a launcher, I'm not saying you're not afraid of things. I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, but there's like a half a breath between when you say you're going to do something and then it's like there, like it's already there.
That's funny that you say that. The only other person that said that to me, Dr. Pat, was my mother. And I mean this and I couldn't possibly mean that in a more positive way. I remember when I was practicing law, I was having dinner with my parents, and my mother said to me, she goes, "Your father and I were talking about you." It's like, oh, great. Here it comes, the criticism. And she said, everything you want to do, you do. She said, you go on these adventures around the world. You wanted to be a disc jockey, so then you got a part-time job at a radio station. You wanted to work for a politician. You wanted to write articles. You wanted to do all these things. You just did it. And it's always been that way. But I also think that was the influence of my parents too, because they said the same thing that Jana just said. Life is really short. And I remember when I was in Hawaii and I was driving on the Hana Road, and anyone, if you're, yeah, the Hana Road
Oh my
is just,
gosh.
yeah, and it's beautiful. And the funny thing is, so many people expect, when you get to the village of Hana, there's really not a whole lot there. But the point of the journey along the Hana Road is that it's the journey, not the destination. And we're only here for a limited time. So try everything that you can. And like Jana, what you said is, if you go underwater and you don't fail, I mean, if you don't succeed or you have a success detour, I mean, Walt Disney had many success detours. Colonel Sanders didn't start his chicken place until he was almost 70. I mean, you look at all these people that they didn't, Harrison Ford
Georgia
kept,
O'Keeffe.
yeah, Harrison Ford kept getting lousy parts. I mean, he didn't really hit it big until he was 40, which in Hollywood is like, oh my God, But the thing is, take a chance.
Yeah.
take a chance. And if it doesn't work out, then take what you learned from it and apply it to something else. And that's what the yet factor tells us to do, is
Yeah.
just do it. I
Yeah.
hear all these times people, I hate my job. I hate this. Well, what are you doing about it? Nothing.
But you know,
Well,
this book really lays out the blueprint for this. And we're going to go to phones here in about 2 minutes. Jana, this is a very perfect example. And I read your book, and I'm going to do something that I wasn't going to do because I was too afraid or too ashamed to do it. I'm not kidding. The universe puts people in front of us, right? I'm sure, Jana, you have people, Mark, you have people that have been put in front of you that are pivotal. I have been looking at the expansion of my company, looking for philanthropist investors. Who do you think I interviewed 3 weeks ago? The founder of GoDaddy. And I walked away from there, and Linda said, "Are you going to talk to him?" I said, "I just talked to him." She said, "No, you're going to talk to him about your company. Are you going to ask him to mentor you?" And I'm telling you, I locked myself in my room. Why? Because something inside of this inner child in me, okay, now I'm going to psych on you. There's something inside of me has a memory of, one, not paying attention to the laws of the universe, but two, not asking the question, not asking for what we desire in life. I mean, it's the old story of the rowboat guy, where the guy's in the rowboat and he says, "God, please, no, 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 no." God sends him this. "Oh, send me this." Oh, sends him like, a raft. "Oh, God, what, send me this." And finally he drowns. And he said, "God, I asked you for help." And God said, "I sent you the rowboat. I sent you the raft." But we are so afraid to ask, right? This cannot be the case if we want to achieve our dreams, correct?
100% correct. And not only that, I feel like you suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome,
I
thinking you're
do.
not,
Like
you're not
big,
worthy
like this
to,
big.
to play with the big dogs. But I'm telling you, you are the big dog. Like, there's a reason you're interviewing this person. He doesn't go to garage interviews. But I do the same thing when I'm on stage. I will not make eye contact with other speakers. My head's always down till I get out, because I know if they look me in the eye, they'd be like, "What's she doing here? Why is she here at our stage?" So we all have it, by the way. It's okay, but you definitely have a little bit of it. If you're interviewing that man, you're a big dog. You think he sits down with anyone?
And you see, this is the story of my life, but enough about me. I think, Mark, we should go to the phones, right? But you
I
see,
think we
I
should.
had to read your book. There was something, and I apologize, I can't remember exactly where it hit me in the book, but there was a reference to it somewhere in the book or somewhere in your story. And I thought, I'm going to do this interview. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to have Linda set up a meeting. You see, it goes back to the same thing I said before. What is the worst thing that can happen? And I have failed at a lot of things in my life. I use that word fail. I get beat up every time I say the word fail. I get my New Thought people call me, "Don't say it." I've been fired from every job I've had, but not this one. Let's go to the phones.
Well,
Emily,
hold on,
well,
hold
okay, go
on.
ahead, Mark.
That was a good thing, because the
Yes.
thing is, well, no, it was a good thing because that was the universe telling you that
Yep.
you needed to work for yourself. What do all three of us do? We work for ourselves. I remember when I was in a big law firm and the politics there and that, and they'd be like, "Well, you're not here on Sunday with the rest of us." No, because I'd get in there on Saturday morning, do all my stuff by 10, because I like taking Sundays off before and you don't do this enough, you don't do that enough. And it's like, I left and I started my own law firm. And then I got to the point where I needed to let that go to concentrate on my spiritual work. And sometimes those doors, as Jana explains very eloquently in the Yet Factor, when one door closes in your face, that's because others are opening. So look at
Yeah.
it that way. Look at it that way. All right, now we can go to the phones. We haven't gone
All
to the
right.
phones yet.
Emily, Emily, and we're going to keep rolling on the phones. Who do we want to speak with first, Emily?
Okay, up first we have Alicia from Oregon. Alicia, you're live.
Hi, Alicia. Welcome to the show. You're live here on The Psychic and the Doc, but we also have Jana Shorts that's going to help you.
Hi, thank you. How are you today?
I'm really good. I had to correct somebody that they were talking about Oregon and they said Oregon. And I'm like, no, that's like a deodorant. So welcome to the Psychic and the Doc. Should I turn you over to Mark for a little bit of information?
Yes,
All right.
please.
Hi, Alicia. How
Hi,
can I
Mark.
help you? Hello.
Um, well, I guess why don't you just tell me what you can pick up to get started?
Okay, that's always a good way. All right, I'm picking up on a female energy connected to you. She is associated with your female side of the family. So this could be a mom, an aunt, or a grandmother, because she does feel like she may be on the generational level above you. This woman she was older when she passed. Easily could have been in her 80s. She could have been knocking on 90 or right around there. And what I get with her real feisty personality, real upbeat, real energetic, and then she seemed like she was in pretty good health for the bulk of her life. And then toward the end, I'm getting this disconnect mentally. Now that could be dementia, but that could also be a medication issue. And the reason I say medication is my kidneys, or rather her kidneys, hurting really badly, lower GI tract into her bladder, that area. I'm feeling a lot of pain, a lot of pressure, and I'm getting this. Toward the end, it was so difficult for this woman to get oxygen into her system. And so her health took a decided turn and a decline. And so it was not a big surprise that she was going to pass, but it was kind of a surprise how quickly she passed. Does any of this resonate with you, Alicia?
Could have been either one of my grandmothers.
And it could be both of them, okay? Because spirits with a commonality come in together. But this grandmother, let me go through this before you respond, is now projecting to me a ruby. Rubies are beautiful red gemstones, which are the birthstone for the month of July. This could mean a number of different things. It could be a significant birth, death, anniversary, or event connected to you, any of your grandmothers, or it could be someone connected to you on planet Earth. Significant birth, death, anniversary, or event within the month of July. Could be a piece of jewelry of significance with a ruby in it that you may recognize. And because it's a ruby, it could be a name like Ruby, Rudy, that she may be referencing, or Robbie, or Julie because of July. Is there anything there
Julia.
Julia? Okay, who's Julia?
My grandmother on my mother's side.
Boom. Okay. So see, I said I felt like you had a grandmother. So we got grandmother Julia. Fantastic. She said, stop delaying. Stop thinking you're not worthy of being the grand marshal in the parade of your life. Wow, now that's an interesting message. She said, for far too long. Oh, let me tell you, you could not have called in for a better team here. She said, for far too long, you're undervaluing yourself. It's like you feel that you're not worthy. And it's interesting when Jana was saying, like, oh, I don't make eye contact with other speakers. Your grandmother's saying, it's time to lift your head up. You are worthy. You are good. And she knows that you've got some health issues going on right now, but it sounds, based on what she is conveying to me, that you've got a handle on it. You're taking care of it. And I'm tasting a lot of sugar, a lot of sugar. What's going on with you and sugar?
I'm trying to get off of it.
Very good. So Granny's giving you that. Yeah, the problem with sugar is it tastes really good. That's the problem with it. But sugar is also poison. And she's letting you know you've got to get off that. And she is extremely proud of how accomplished you are when you choose to be. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a step back, and who wants to field this one
Jana,
first?
I think
Yeah,
Jana.
Jana, this sounds like a segue for you.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I think that
You-
all of us at some point are exactly where you're at, right? We've hidden from our success or from where we're supposed to be going. I just love your grandma's giving you messages to get up and get moving. But I
They're
would
both
highly,
like that.
they are good
They're
for
very
them.
feisty. Outspoken. Good women, no.
Well, and so are you, by the way. So let's talk about worthiness. I feel like if you can tap into your inner self and understand the words we use to describe ourselves, even accepting a compliment. I hear this all the time, and I bet you do this. Someone says, "Oh my gosh, you look beautiful today." And you say immediately, "Oh, no, I don't, but thank you," right? You discount that compliment immediately. We all do it. But I want you to stop catching yourself and start accepting those compliments. Start saying, "Thank you. That was very kind of you. I appreciate the compliment." And receiving them. I don't think you're receiving the goodness from others, including yourself. So definitely go get the book. There's lots of baby steps in there. This doesn't change overnight. But as we become aware of it, we can start making those little shifts. Yes, Mark. And the way you talk to yourself, honestly, if I heard back when, if somebody else came to me and talked to me the way I talk to myself in my head, I would have been like, who do you think you are talking to me like that? Right? You can't talk to yourself in a disparaging way, but it happens. So I want you to connect with that. The minute that comes out of your head, again, like the whack-a-mole, immediately respond to that voice. Nope. I am doing amazing. I've got this, right? I've got this. I'm doing great things, and I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you for calling in. I have one question for you. What is it
Yes.
you're not doing? Do you know what that is? You know what Jana just said, right? But do you have like a, oh my God, this is now my Southern roots. Do you have like a burr under your saddle that just won't let go? And you know, you just got to do something to remove it, but you just not do it. Is there something you're holding back from not doing? And you don't have to share it on air because sometimes these things are really private. But I really want you to figure what that is. And when you get the book, you will see how Jana walks you through not only how to identify it, but absolutely know what to do to take that next step, right? Because that's why you called in.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. I just feel like I'm being, like forces beyond my control are holding me back from the life that I'm supposed to be living.
Ooh. Ooh. See, we just talked about that chapter in the book about destiny. The life, Jana, should we say this in heart together? The life that you want to be living, you're not able to live it yet.
100%.
Do you hear the difference right there? Did
Yes,
you get what I said?
I was, and I want to be again.
But you're not yet.
I got that.
Right?
Can I?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Alicia is I'm getting a male energy coming in. Is your dad in spirit?
Yes.
Okay, because I have a very dad energy coming in, and he keeps talking about, and obviously you don't have to discuss your finances, all right? Because we're on air and there's millions of people listening, so we want to keep that private. But there's something about a loan paperwork, bank paperwork, and there's like an intimidation factor there. And if you feel like you're getting the runaround in some type of loan or loan paperwork, and he's telling you to stick with it, stick with it. He goes, "My girl's not a quitter. My girl's not a quitter." Does any of that make sense to you?
My dad wasn't a financial advisor.
Well, definitely makes sense. Is there anything that you're doing now with, could be finances or a loan, could be even shifting money from one institution to another? And like I said, you don't have to give us any details, but what he's telling you
need
is,
to take a look at it.
Go ahead.
Taking like finding consolidation on or something. Maybe that could be it.
Okay, so stick with it. Be careful. Now, this is just Uncle Mark jumping in. I understand that interest rates are coming down. So if you are going to consolidate things, make sure you get the best interest rate possible. And I always recommend don't get those balloons or ones that will, oh, I'm paying 3% now, and in 5 years it'll jump up to 20%. I'll be able to handle it. No, get locked. You'd be better off paying like 3.5% or 4%. than a lower rate that's going to balloon on you later
Yeah.
on, because you got to be realistic. We all think we're, we all want to be, 10 times richer than we are 3 years from now. But that you have to be realistic too.
Yeah.
So that's what your dad's saying.
Forgiveness
Yeah.
loans too.
Yeah,
And
I
those
mean,
are-
let me
those
leave you with
things
this
should be
one
looking at.
thing, and this is in the book. Jana implies this in the book. The idea of yet. Here's the energy of yet. You ready for it?
Mhm.
Yet has possibility energy. So there's something I call the possibility zone. Got that?
Mhm.
Possibilities, if you put possibility and yet together energetically, then what you find now when you get off the phone tomorrow, look at possibilities. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who everybody around her whole family is like, don't do a reverse mortgage. Well, they're not her. She doesn't have 50 kids to leave the house to. And so just consider all the possibilities, because there's something out there for you. Right, Jana?
100%. You know, Alicia, I personally do not believe your story's over yet. I think it's just beginning.
Yeah.
And I would love, if you can get your address into the show, I would love to gift you my book, because again, I believe in you. We all believe
Yeah.
in you. We're rooting for you. And it just takes a few little things to start making those adjustments and getting into the possibility realm.
Yeah. Let's stay on the line. Don't hang up. Emily will get it from you. And I want you to borrow something from us. I want you to borrow our faith. I had a life-changing mentor who said to me once, Pat, you don't have faith in yourself, but I want you to borrow the faith I have for you. And right now you got 3 people, an entire audience here. Take and borrow our faith, okay? But don't hang up. Emily's going to get, or Jessica is going to get information from you, okay?
Alicia, are
Alicia,
you
you still
there?
there? Probably. Emily's probably got her covered already.
Okay, great.
I love that call.
I said yes. And I said thank
Okay.
you, and thank you, Mark.
Okay, and don't
Oh.
hang up though, because Emily's got to get your
Okay.
address. What a great gift.
Definitely. And with books, and with the holiday season coming up, the Yet Factor is an excellent holiday gift, because what are the best gifts? They're the gifts that keep on giving. And the Yet Factor, or you can read it because there's lots of great stories, and when Jana tells her personal stories and things, it's very engaging. But the lessons that she incorporates and weaves through the narrative are very powerful. But this is the type of book that you just don't read once. You're going to need to read it a couple times
Yeah.
to really get everything out of it. And that's what I like about Jana's. Your writing style is like mine. People say, "Oh, I read your book in 8 hours because I love the stories." It's like, right, but there's a lot of lessons in there that people tend to gloss over, because they want to hear the reading stories and all this, but they have to hear what is beneath the surface to get the full impact of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautifully written. The Yet Factor is so beautifully written because it's easy to read, yet there is a complexity to it, which everybody needs to be aware of.
Yeah. I love the book, and it comes at a perfect time. Jenna, I want to ask you this question too. You could have probably written this book anytime in the past decade, but the timing for a book like this, my clients, the people I speak with, the people that call in, the people that we reach out to, there's this edge of giving up that we tend to hear. And the idea of having the yet factor as part of your mindset and consciousness is the thing that gets you up the next day to hopefully clear the cobwebs out, right? And I think that the timing of this book couldn't have been better. I don't know if that was a factor for you, but I just don't want people to throw in the towel.
So this book has been in the making for 3 years, and I realized I was a fraud. I was telling all my clients who are putting off their book, "What's wrong with you? Like, don't be brave and write your book. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen?" And then someone said, "Well, when is your book coming out?" So I had to get my act together. And here's the thing, I wasn't ready 3 years ago to write this book. This book originally was called Chairs Not Included, and it was about women at the business table and our mindset around it. It evolved into something else. And again, I tell
Wow.
you, when you wait, sometimes the universe has a different plan for you. And so I believe timing is always good when it's not forced.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And, can we talk about this for a minute, all three of us? Because Mark, this is what you do for a living. I got to study down here, and I went to school in California, and I didn't stay in LA. I had the opportunity to stay in LA. And I didn't, but I got to study with the gentleman that created something called flow theory. Flow. And I was really struck by how prevalent that is in your book, even though you don't go through all of the gyrations Mahali went through to explain the theory. But there's this essence of flow in the word yet. You see what I mean? Yet is this thing that shows an energy of something not quite here, not quite done, but a door that's open for something to flow. Does that even make sense to anybody, what I just said right there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
does.
does.
Yeah.
I feel like the yet for me is a perfect flow. Having said that, I believe in putting triggers in front of my brain because it creates roadmaps, right? When it sees something, a vacation on the wall or a new house or whatever it is on your vision board, it seems silly, but subconsciously my brain's seeing it every day and it's preparing. It's the same with the words we use, right? It's hearing them, it's preparing them. I mean, I think that you guys would agree with me that our brain is really created to keep us alive. And
Yeah.
when right, it's created to keep us from the scary things, keep us alive. And so when we tell them that our brain, like, I can't do that, it protects us. Well, we'll make sure you don't then. Or like you tell it, like, I'm afraid of that. Well, then we're going to protect you. I even knew a girl who would say, I can't go to work. I'm going to shoot myself in the head if I have to deal with those people one more day. She was always sick. And I told her, I feel like your brain is protecting you from shooting yourself in the head. And there was some real logic to that. Her body was saying, well, we'll just make sure you're so sick you don't have to go to work. And the minute she started working on it, she became a pretty healthy person.
That's amazing. And I've seen so many examples of that where people they cloud their mind with negative thoughts and they tell their body negative things and they wonder why they're sick all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work with women in addiction and recovery. I am in my 34th or 5th year now myself. I mean, it's part of my journey. Addiction is part of my family's legacy. Of course, all of them are dead because of addiction, right? But this notion, this is a book that I am going to give to each and every person I work with. Because when you're in that day one, right, and you're seeing what other people talk about the future, the yet factor is so important to hold on to because you're talking about people who have, not everybody, but have hit a bottom. I'm never going to get up. No, you're going to get up. You just don't feel like it yet. You see why I'm so excited about your book, because I have this whole other universe of teens and women that I work with over here, that if they understood the power of what you've written, and I'm going to get them a copy, each of them, if they understood that, you see, they would be able to hold on so the miracle can happen, you see.
I think that's the tricky part, is holding on for it to come, because in our heads we think it'll never, not for us. That's not possible for us. And I hear it all the time. And I love that you work with people in recovery. I just had a call with this incredible woman who was celebrating her 9 years of sobriety. And we were talking about, it starts an hour at a time. I just got to get through the next hour, right?
Yeah.
And then after you get through those hours, it's just one more day. And she's been doing this for 9 years. Like, it wasn't like 20 years down the road. It was, I'm getting through today. And I think when we're changing our mindset, we have to know it doesn't change overnight. It's just one thought pattern. one thought pattern every hour that pops in our head, we adjust it, then the next hour, then the next day, and pretty soon it starts creating this beautiful pattern of incredible possibilities in our mind, plus these incredible maps to where we want to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love that. You know, so many people right now want something to believe in. And sometimes it has to be something outside of yourself, like a book, what Mark does, right? Mark taps into a part of consciousness that will help people maybe get through tonight. I mean, his work is so powerful in that way. And what your book does is it gives people a blueprint about a future possibility that they didn't consider today. That
I
is
hope
so
so.
important now.
Oh, it
Well,
does.
it
It
does.
does. It does because, that old expression, you're your own worst enemy.
Mm.
What, people say, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Circumstances are holding me back." Well, then change the circumstances. Change the game. Real quick, I just want to, for all the listeners, I will be in Houston next week. I'm going to be on Great Day Houston, KHOU, CBS TV. I will also be doing 2 nights of spirit communication at Body, Mind, and Soul in Houston. And then on November 9th, I'll be at the Unity of Tampa doing a spirit communication event. Please visit my website, afterlifefrequency.com, sign up for my newsletter, and you can also go to the calendar events for the events I have upcoming in Houston and in Tampa. Jana, how do people sign up for your newsletter, which I
Yeah.
understand is really awesome?
They can just go to the website, Best Holistic Life or janashort.com, and they can sign up for the newsletter there. We only send it out once a month, but it's always full with incredible fun things to do. Other leaders and influencers, sharing their journeys, and all that information is all in the newsletters every month.
Fantastic. So everyone, and Dr. Pat Unstuckable, what's interesting about Unstuckable and the yet factor are allied concepts.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the yet factor, I haven't done this yet, and Dr. Pat's like, I'm not stuck, I'm unstuck, and I'm
Yeah.
unstuckable. And what both of you do is teach people to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And Jana, what you said earlier, if somebody said to me what I say to myself in my head, I'd be like, who do you think you are? And
Yeah.
we do that all the time. That negative self-talk, what in the military they call it stinking thinking, where you sit there and you just like, tear yourself down. I can't do this, I can't do that. And it's so nice that both of you are inspiring people. And I know both of you work a lot with women, and the what the chair that's missing at the table, because women have been disenfranchised and pushed aside throughout history, and now we live in a time where women are emerging as politicians, as leaders, as in every dynamic way. And the funny thing is, women have always done this. It's just that they've really been stuck and told you can't do this, but now you can't do this yet, and now you're unstuckable. So I want to thank both of you
Thank
because
you, Mark.
I was on a panel. It was funny. I was at this conference, and it was a woman's panel, Gaia, and I was the only man on the panel. And like all the women there were like really angry, and they're saying the injustices women have suffered. And I opened with, well, on behalf of my gender, I'm really sorry. And everybody started laughing. And because my whole life, I've always had in college and law school, I always had female professors. In law firms, I had female colleagues and even female bosses. So for me, working side by side with women as equals was never a thing. But then for a lot of people in a lot of professions, it is. And that antiquated stinking thinking needs to go, needs to go.
Yeah. I mean, we're living in a world now where we're seeing this play out, Jana, in women's basketball. Women's basketball of today is so different. And we're seeing what happened when a young woman emerged by the name of Caitlin Clark. And we're watching how we as women look at ourselves to support each other or not. And what's so funny about it is we're getting the lesson, not from each other, but we're getting it from the Shaquille O'Neals. We're getting a lesson from these male basketball players that are saying, people support each other. Look at your future. And that has always been a challenge for, if you talk about the collective of women, but that is going to change. We may not be there yet, but when we do, fasten your seatbelt, Jana, right?
100%. And you use the word yet.
I did use the word yet. Thank you both. I want to thank Emily for pushing all the right buttons. Thank you so much, Jenna. You know, you have an open door here to come back, especially when that thing you couldn't talk about that you're thinking about doing or not doing shows up next year. So please come back. Mark, thank you again for being you. And for all of you, you're the best audience on the planet. We'll see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Psychic in the Doc with Mark Anthony and me, Dr. Pat Baccili, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Hey, look, come back next week so we can explore with you more of life's many challenges and learn from fascinating guests. And you know what? Even Mark and me. We'll connect you and discover insights from people in this life and from the afterlife. Extraordinary problems? Yeah, they do. They require extraordinary solutions. But step into the world of possibilities with us on The Psychic and the Doc. That's every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. That's TransformationTalkRadio.com. And don't forget, we're also live face-to-face on Facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio.